Be honest. It's Sunday. It's around 11. You're scrolling. You've been on the app for 3 months. You've sent, and you counted in a bad week, 247 messages. You've gotten 4 replies. None of them went anywhere. You're not even reading the profiles anymore. You're swiping like you're shuffling a deck. You'll delete the app tonight. You won't. That's not weakness. That's an animal correctly reading its environment. There are 3 things going on here: the math, the nervous system, and a reframe that is going to be uncomfortable. We're going to do them in that order. Act 1, the math. It's not in your head. The asymmetry is documented. Christian Rudder co-founded OkCupid. He ran the company for a decade. He published the internal data in a book called Dataclysm in 2014. Women, on aggregate, rated 80% of male profiles as below average looking. Men rated female profiles on a roughly normal curve. 3 years later, an engineer at Hinge named Aviv Goldgeier ran the same kind of analysis on Hinge's data and published the numbers. The top 1% of male profiles receives 16% of all female likes. The top 10% receives 58%. The bottom half of men, taken together, share 4.3%. Read that twice. The bottom 50% of men split 4.3% of female attention. They are not competing for a table that's being passed to them. They are watching a table they will never sit at. Robert Cialdini at Arizona State has written for decades about scarcity dynamics. When a resource is unevenly distributed, the system optimizes for the small group at the top, and the rest of the participants experience the market as starvation. That's the apps. That's the structure. Saying so isn't bitter, it's accurate. The first move is to stop calling this a personal failure. There is no version of you in the bottom 80% that gets a fair shot at a fair distribution. The distribution isn't fair, by design. Act 2, the nervous system. Now consider what happens to a brain that walks into this market without being told it's a market. B.F. Skinner figured out in the 1950s that if you reward a pigeon randomly, it will press a lever forever. Variable ratio reinforcement. That's why dating apps feel addictive even when they're not working. The swipe itself is the reward. The match is incidental. But Skinner also figured out the other case. Give the pigeon nothing, ever, and the pressing eventually stops. The pigeon goes still. Wolfram Schultz at Cambridge mapped the dopamine signal in the 90s. Reward neurons fire on prediction error, the gap between expectation and outcome. With 0 outcome over enough time, the prediction collapses. You stop expecting. The opening of the app starts to feel like nothing. The swipe feels like nothing. The no reply feels like nothing. Martin Seligman called this learned helplessness. The 1967 experiments showed that animals exposed to unavoidable aversive stimuli eventually stop trying to escape, even when the cage opens. They don't notice the door is open. They've updated their model of the world to one where action does not predict outcome. They are not lazy. They are not broken. They are correct, given what they were given. You are doing this. The 247 messages with 4 replies have taught your nervous system that effort doesn't predict reward. The system has gone quiet because the signal stopped meaning anything. That's not pathology. That's an organism that has measured a hostile environment correctly. Act 3, the reframe. Here's the part that's hard to hear. Worth hearing anyway. The despair you feel is disproportionate to the stakes. It's just an app. They're strangers. Why does it hurt this much? The answer is that it doesn't hurt because it's an app. It hurts because every left swipe is a small verdict on whether you exist as a desirable being, and you are receiving thousands of these verdicts a year, and the human nervous system did not evolve for that. It evolved to receive maybe a dozen mating verdicts in a lifetime, in a small village, from people who knew you. Ernest Becker, anthropologist, Pulitzer Prize, 1974, for The Denial of Death, wrote that humans cannot bear their existential terror alone, so we hand it off to someone we call beloved. The partner becomes what he called the transference object, the person whose love confirms that you exist, that you matter. We were always doing this. We used to do it with one person, slowly, over time. Now we are doing it with strangers, on a phone, at scale. We are asking 10,000 people whose names we don't know to confirm that we exist. They are saying no by saying nothing. And our nervous system is reading every one. You are not unlovable. You are being rejected at scale by a population on a device engineered to optimize the rejection. The animal in you knows. The despair is not weakness. It is data. The men who do well on these apps are not better men. They are men whose photographs happen to fit a 6-image grid optimization problem. That's not character. That's not worth. That's a face the algorithm has decided to surface. You are not losing a contest of human value. You are not in a contest of human value. You are in a competitive marketplace that has been confused for one. It was never about not being enough. It was about being asked to be enough for 10,000 strangers at once. It's just a primate sitting alone with a glowing rectangle, asking the rectangle to confirm it exists, while the rectangle counts swipes. Tell me in the comments, which act hit hardest? The math? The nervous system? The reframe? I read all of them. You'll close the app tonight. You won't delete it. Maybe, that's not what tonight needs to be. We'll meet back here next week, quietly, at 2 a.m., like always.